As I've been learning Unreal Engine for the past few weeks, I've been coming across some very interesting functionalities that exist within the Unreal Engine. And one of those are the macros UPROPERTY and UFUNCTION that are available within C++. And what I find very fascinating about them are the specifiers and the way that you're allowed to use them to customize your classes and do whatever you want with them. So in general, UProperties are used on variables and basically are a way for you to expose your variables to the Unreal Engine as well as the editor. So you can edit it, let's say, in your blueprint class that it derives from this. Maybe you can also edit it in the game, in your blueprints, in your details panel. You can also do some networking stuff with them. So it allows for plenty of stuff to do with using the U property, and a lot of potential to do with that also. And ufunction is basically the same for functions. It has different specifiers, and specifiers are these things that are within the brackets that I'm going to be discussing in just a bit. So again, it exposes the function to the Unreal Engine and allows you to use it elsewhere outside of your class. So this is my main character that I have for my main game that I'm developing to learn Unreal Engine. And as you can see, I have plenty of U properties and U functions around. So I found this very useful, and I thought might as well make a video about it. And I'm going to be discussing my favorite ones that I've come across and some useful ones that, based on my research, are also useful. So these are basically what I'm going to be discussing about, and I'm going to be using this kind of test class to go over them. So first example is going to be these two, well, one a variable boolean and one getter for that boolean. And as you can see, the variable does not have a U property, nor does the function has a U function. And if I were to try and access this from, let's say, my blueprint class that I have here, this is basically the same class deriving from what I've showed before. And if I were to, let's say, try to find is visible, you can see that I'm only finding some other unrelated stuff. Or if I were to go and try to find, let's say, is visible, again, this is not accessible in the blueprint or editor or in the details panel at all. And what if you wanted to use this in your blueprints or find this in your details panel? Well, let's try to tackle the details panel first. And what you can use for having access to these variables within the details panel are the edit anywhere and visible anywhere specifiers that you can kind of fill up between these brackets. So it's for U property, and edit anywhere allows you to edit this variable anywhere within the blueprint, and the visible anywhere only allows you to see the value, so you'll be able to see the two but won't be able to edit it. So if I were to go and try to find my int, which is edit anywhere, and your int, which is visible anywhere, um, going back to my class, you can see that my int has a value of 10. I'm able to change it to whatever, but your int is not accessible. I can see the value that it has, but I'm not able to edit it. And this is very useful, let's say, for debugging purposes, where you want to see, let's say, some values changing or what values are in place, and but you don't want to edit them. So this is useful for debugging and having like an idea of what's going on behind the curtains. While list edit anywhere allows you to set some default values, but also again be able to see what's going on again behind the scenes. So that is edit anywhere and visible anywhere. And you can actually use U property without having any specifiers. So you can leave it empty as is, and it will still kind of expose this to the engine, but you won't be able to use it in your blueprints or in your details panel. But it's still an option. And moving on, you can see that I'm able to actually combine this in any way I want. So there is a lot of flexibility, and you can combine any specifiers as you like. So I have one above, but I have three here. So we have edit anywhere again, but we have blueprint read only. So if I were to try and access your int that we had before here, so in my event graph, you'll see that it doesn't show up. And that is because it hasn't had the blueprint read only or blueprint read and write, which basically the read only allows you to get the value that this has, but you are not allowed to change it or set it, while is the read and write allows you to both get the value and set it. So if I were to try and access max health, you'll see that it only appears for getting. So there is no setter function here, and I'm able to get the value as normally. So this allows me to expose some variables that I would want for getting, but not setting. But if you want to do both, you are going to, let's say for this current health, you're going to have both getter and setter functions here. So very useful and allows for plenty of customization as you'd like. And the last bit here is the category, which is very useful for organizing your classes and your blueprints. So as you can see, I have category with the equal sign and health. And if I were to go back to my details panel, you'll see my previous variables where my int, your int, and the other one that we haven't really reached yet are all under the macro specifier actor, which is just the name of my actor. So they're just going, everything that you're going to be exposing onto this detailed panel are going to be by default stored under here. But what if you have, like, I don't know, 50 variables, and it will get very chaotic? You can use the category to create in your um, categories of your own and customize it as you like. So you have health, for example, max health and current health. If you were to go here, you'll see that under health, this category right here, we have max health and current health. And they are this way you can organize it as you like and have your details panel more organized and prettier and just more functionable. So I really like the category, and it helps a lot with organizing, especially if you have a big project. And next up, and the last two that we're going to be having a look for UProperty are the edit instance only and edit defaults only. So max speed, for example, is set to edit defaults only. If I were to try and search speed here, you'll see that only max speed is available here because this is a default class. This is not an instance of the class, and that means I'm able to edit this default value that the variable has, and this is because I'm using the edit defaults only. But if I were to drop this into my world that I already have and try to search for speed again, you'll see that there is no max speed here, but there is the speed variable available, and that is because the speed variable has the edit instance only. So basically, the edit instance only allows you to edit this variable only for instances of this class. So the actors that you are actually placing into the world are instances of our class, and if you set the edit instance only, you're allowed to change the speed variable of the instance. So that's why you're seeing the speed. But on the other hand, we have the edit defaults only, which is basically permits you to and allows you to edit this variable on your blueprint, but it does not allow you to edit this when the actor is placed. So that is, again, two useful U properties. And one last specifier that I haven't used myself, but I've been told that these are very useful, are the replicated. So for my list here, replicated is basically for networking purposes, and sadly I'm not making a networking game, but basically allows you to use variables around the network between server and client. But I haven't really discussed this. I just read about it and it seemed useful and kind of worth including. Okay, let's move on to the U function specifiers. First of all, we have the blueprint callable, and as its name suggests, this allows you to call this function in blueprints, because otherwise, if you didn't have this, you won't be able to have access to this in blueprints. So for example, the get is visible that does not have any U function macro on it. You'll see that if I were to try and find it, I'm not able to find it anywhere. That's not usable in blueprints. But if I were to try and use the get max speed, you can see that I'm able to call this as is. And the reason that this is on its own and doesn't have an execution to go in is because I've also set this to blueprint pure, which basically means that it is just very useful for getters, and it has this form. It doesn't have uh, an execution route to go into. It's just useful for getting the value and using in your, I don't know, let's say you have a print and you can drag this in. So I like to use this for getters or stuff that are getting information or things that do not necessarily need to be into the main route. and helps with organizing again your blueprints and not having like a spaghetti of blueprints that get very chaotic. And if you were to, let's say, remove this and a live compile, hopefully this won't take too long to compile. As you can see now, this has changed to get max speed that has routes, and I need to kind of have a way in and a way out. So this is more useful for I don't know, stuff that need to be included and need to be called, because on the previous version, if you didn't have an actual blueprint to connect this to, this won't be called. And let's say you only wanted to call this and just get max health for some reason, you wouldn't be able to do that with the blueprint pure. But with this one, you'll still be able to call this on its own without any problem, while it's the other one, the main route needs to be called in order for that one to be called and get the value. So that is basically um, the blueprint callable and blueprint pure that we had before. And then we have the blueprint native event. So blueprint native event allows you to implement the function that we have here within blueprints. So we'll have the implementation of this function in blueprints, but also allows you to have an implementation within C++. So basically allows you to override this function that you have in C++ in blueprints. So let's say I go back to here and try to override this. So the way to do this is going to my blueprints here and go to the functions here, and you can see there's a small button saying override. And if I were to search for calculate speed, you are allowed to create your own definition in blueprints and do something else that the default or base class that you are deriving from didn't want. You will want to change the functionality that it has. So here you can do whatever you want, so just print or whatever and returning some value. But yeah, this is the um, blueprint native event, which allows you to both have a C++ side but also override it in blueprints. Lastly, we have the blueprint implementable event, which basically allows you to have an implementation of, let's say, the move function within blueprints. So if I were to go back here, you're able to search for what was the name of the function? Move. Okay, move. You can see that this is an event instead of a function, so you can implement it here, and there is no need for a definition within C++. You're allowed to leave that empty. So if you were to see, I didn't have any definition for this, unlike the above. Okay, so that's basically it for the specifiers. And some honorable mentions again for the U function. We have the server and client, which basically again for networking and basically forces a function to only be called on the server or the client, and again very useful for controlling networking stuff. Again, not a lot of experience, but I thought useful to include. Hopefully you found this video useful, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe onto the channel and give me some more ideas on what to do next. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.